Welcome to Voyage Daily Tech, the most important news personalized for you every day, supported by Voyage.com.
After listening to today's news, you'll know, first, Microsoft's secret AI data center plan is rejected by a Wisconsin village, fueling a national trend that has blocked $18 billion in projects. We'll analyze why this ground war over land and power grids is a turning point and how it could affect big tech's expansion plans. Second, Meta's potential $70 billion shift to Google's custom TPU chips sends shockwaves through the AI market, challenging Nvidia's long-held dominance. In this episode, we'll break down this second source strategy and what it signals for Nvidia's pricing power and its CUDA software ecosystem. Third, the UK's £1.2 million sovereign AI project uses a supercomputer to decode mental fatigue from eye movements, blurring the line between health and surveillance. We'll explore how this powerful diagnostic tech could transform safety and what it means for cognitive privacy and new EU regulations. Fourth, US sales for Meta's Ray-Ban Smartglasses triple, but a new social dilemma called attentional privacy threatens mainstream adoption. In this episode, we'll break down Meta's Trojan horse hardware strategy and what it signals for the race to own the next major computing platform. Fifth, a top EU regulator publicly rebukes Tesla for mobilizing its fan base, stalling the crucial approval of its FSD supervised system for all of Europe. We'll analyse why this clash is a turning point and how Europe's prove-it-first safety principle could block Tesla's global ambitions. The story begins with a decision that caught everyone by surprise. One of the world's most valuable companies, Microsoft, just tried to build a massive AI data center in a tiny Wisconsin village, and the locals sent them packing. So the thing is, tech giants often use shell companies and secretive code names to acquire land without driving up prices or alerting the public. In this case, Microsoft was operating under the code name Project Nova. This strategy of non-transparency can seriously backfire because when a community feels like they've been kept in the dark, it creates instant distress. That's exactly what happened here. The company wanted to rezone 244 acres of farmland, but the community fought back. One resident summed up the resistance with a line you won't forget: "Horses are skittish animals." He said the noise would make his horses so miserable he'd contemplate moving. This isn't just one small town, it's the front line of a new war. A while back, we broke down how data center electricity demand could roughly double by 2030. And a few days ago, we talked about a capacity auction where Watchdog said data centers made up 63% of a $9.3 billion bill. That used to sound abstract. In Caledonia, it landed like a siren grid strain and rate pressure turning into local politics in real time, just as we saw spill over in Wales. And this kind of organised pushback is actually becoming a national trend. Researchers have identified a new activist playbook that goes way beyond simple noise complaints. Communities are now using sophisticated economic arguments and legal challenges to fight back. Nationally, organised resistance like this has already blocked or delayed over $18 billion in data centre projects. As we noted with those town hall showdowns in Wales a while back, this fight jumps quickly from megawatts on spreadsheets to microphones in municipal meetings. One resident demanded, "Why do we have to subsidise a company making billions of dollars a year?" 9 days later, Microsoft walked away. And in states packed with data centres, ratepayers have noticed residential electricity prices have jumped 16% in Illinois and 13% in Virginia, well ahead of national averages. However, if you zoom out, you'll see another layer of strategy at play. Just 20 miles down the road, the village of Mount Pleasant is rolling out the red carpet for a $3.3 billion Microsoft facility. The reason? Mount Pleasant was left with a giant economic hole from a previously failed $10 billion Foxconn project, a deal once called the eighth wonder of the world, that ultimately collapsed. This wasn't just a lucky break for Microsoft, it was a strategic move, and it's a critical detail. The site selection team knew that Mount Pleasant had already spent a fortune on infrastructure, roads, utilities, and land for the Foxconn deal that never materialized. Microsoft essentially swooped in and bought over 1,000 acres of that same shovel-ready land, knowing the town was desperate for an economic win to justify those sunk costs. This conflict is now erupting across the state. In towns like Beaver Dam and Vienna, residents are pushing back against new projects from Meta and Blackstone, citing concerns over power, grids, farmland, and water. Now, these local fights over power grids have huge national security implications. The United States is in a global AI race, And by concentrating so much of our AI computing power in rural America, we are making the domestic electrical grid a critical and potentially vulnerable strategic asset. This decentralized private sector approach is a stark contrast to the state-directed sovereign AI initiatives in places like China and the EU, which are building their own national computing hubs to maintain control. Our power grid is becoming a battleground in the new Cold War over AI. Remember Northern Virginia? Data centers already consume 26% of the entire state's electricity. A single high-performance AI server can draw over 10 kilowatts. Cooling has become a first-order constraint, and some new AI campuses can pull a gigawatt, an entire city's worth of power. And overseas, the UK's data centers already use about 2.5% of the nation's electricity, with demand projected to surge by 2030. One report shows a single hyperscale data center can use over 365 million gallons of water a year, the same amount as 12,000 Americans. As we've said a while back, the AI race isn't just about code, it's a brutal competition for power. One local trustee, celebrating Microsoft's withdrawal from Caledonia, said, "We did seem to have awoken a sleeping giant, I guess." The trillion-dollar AI gold rush is no longer just happening online. It is now a ground war being fought over land, water, and power in America's heartland. And unless the sector finds far more efficient designs, that doubling in demand we flagged a while back will only intensify these fights. Speaking of the massive physical infrastructure needed for AI, let's turn to the silicon that powers it. The most unexpected news in the tech world today has to be the 4% nosedive Nvidia's stock just took, all stemming from a bombshell report that could shake the foundations of the industry. One of the biggest AI spenders on the planet, Meta, is reportedly looking to team up with Google. The report claims Meta is considering using Google's custom-designed AI chips in its data centers, potentially starting as soon as next year. A few days ago, we talked about hyperscalers pushing toward chip sovereignty to reduce dependence on Nvidia. Today's Meta-Google chatter is exactly what that looks like when it moves from strategy decks to real procurement plans. I know what you're probably thinking. Wait a minute, aren't Meta and Google fierce competitors? And you're absolutely right. They battle for advertising dollars and for the future of the internet. So why would Meta risk becoming dependent on a direct rival for its most critical AI infrastructure? Well, this is a classic case of what experts call co-opetition, where companies compete and collaborate at the same time. It's not unheard of. Think about Apple and Samsung. They are bitter rivals in the smartphone market, but for years, Apple sourced critical screen components directly from Samsung. These deals require incredibly complex agreements to protect secrets and manage the relationship, and that's exactly what would be needed here. As we've discussed before, the hyperscalers that control more of the stack hardware and software control their destiny. To understand the scale of this threat to Nvidia, just look at the money. Meta is projecting its capital expenditure to be between $70 billion and $72 billion this year. That's the kind of spending that dictates who wins and who loses in the tech world. And remember, we recently noted Google ratcheting its own capital expenditure higher and warning that the next couple of years get even more intense. This is an arms race measured in tens of billions. The market reaction was instant and brutal. While Nvidia shares fell, Google's parent company, Alphabet, saw its stock jump over 4%. Even Broadcom, the company that helps Google design its chips, surged. As we flagged a while back, Broadcom is becoming the behind-the-scenes kingmaker for many custom AI chips, so any validation of TPUs tends to lift them too. The market's reaction isn't just about a single deal, it's a response to the first major validation of a second source strategy against Nvidia. For years, if you wanted top-tier AI chips, you had one option. This move by a mega customer like Meta effectively challenges Nvidia's pricing power and could weaken the lock-in effect of its powerful CUDA software. It creates a new ceiling on what Nvidia can charge. Continuing our last discussion about Nvidia's rapid upgrade cadence and the depreciation bubble, it creates a credible second source, doesn't just diversify supply, it directly pressures pricing and lock-in. For years, the battle lines have been clear. Nvidia's GPUs have been the undisputed hardware king of the AI gold rush. But Google has been quietly building its own custom chips called TPUs since 2018. Experts say these customized chips give Google a massive advantage, offering a highly efficient product built specifically for AI workloads. We previously analysed Google's rapid TPU cadence now on its 7th generation and how they're being forced to double AI compute capacity at a blistering pace just to keep up. On a technical level, it's a true architectural showdown. Nvidia's GPUs or graphics processing units are incredibly versatile and powerful. But Google's TPUs or tensor processing units are different. They are custom built for one thing, the massive matrix math that powers modern AI. Research shows that for specific jobs like training huge language models, TPUs can be significantly more efficient. For instance, Google's TPU v4 has demonstrated up to 50% faster training times on certain models compared to top-tier Nvidia GPUs. And here's the kicker. They can be more energy efficient with a high-end Nvidia A, 100 chip consuming up to 400 watts, while a TPU v4 consumes around 200 to 250 watts. When you're running hundreds of thousands of these chips, that difference in power and cost is astronomical. And given the data center power crunch we just discussed, where capacity constraints could bite hard in the next couple of years, efficiency isn't a nice to have, it's survival. For a long time, tech companies have been searching for a way to reduce their reliance on Nvidia. Now, a major player is making a very public move. We've also been tracking how Amazon, Google, and even OpenAI are pouring billions into custom ASICs. Meta flirting with TPUs fits the same arc towards second sources and sovereignty. But that's not the whole picture. The real strategic play is about the cloud wars. Google is using its custom TPUs as a strategic weapon to win massive cloud customers, like Meta, away from its rivals Amazon Web Services and Microsoft Azure. Custom silicon is becoming the key differentiator, shifting the battleground from generic computing power to specialized high-performance AI infrastructure. We previously highlighted that even cloud growth is being throttled by compute scarcity, so owning differentiated silicon becomes the lever to unlock demand. While Nvidia's dominance is not over, this is the first real crack in its armor. It's a direct challenge from one tech titan to another, with a $70 billion budget hanging in the balance, signaling the AI chip war is just getting started. This move effectively gives a green light to other competitors like AMD and even internal chip projects at Amazon and Microsoft, telling them the market is officially open for business. And as we mentioned a while back, the custom chip market is set for explosive growth. Today's Meta TPU storyline isn't a one-off. It accelerates the reshuffling of the entire AI hardware hierarchy. We were just talking about the hardware that powers AI. Now, let's shift our focus to a very different and frankly more intimate application of that power. A government-funded supercomputer in the UK has just been given a new multi-million-pound mission. And believe it or not, it's being used to watch people's eyes. Essentially, the UK is making a huge bet on what's called sovereign AI. Instead of relying completely on private tech giants for computing power, the government is funding its own massive machines like Isambard AI and giving researchers direct access. It's a strategic move to boost public sector innovation and keep control over this critical national resource. Researchers at the University of Essex have been granted 10,000 hours of access to the government-funded machine for a groundbreaking £1.2 million study. Their goal is to answer one question. Can they see your mental fatigue and lapses in concentration just by tracking your eye movements? And to put 10,000 hours of access into perspective, if these academics had to go buy that same amount of computing time from a commercial cloud provider using the same top-of-the-line chips, it could cost them anywhere from $30,000 to over $75,000. This government subsidy fundamentally changes the economics, making this kind of ambitious academic research possible in the UK. The project, dubbed iWarn, isn't just a simple lab test. The supercomputer will be used to power massive models that integrate data from people and their surroundings, analysing eye movements in natural settings. The real challenge, and why the supercomputer is needed, is doing this in the wild. Analysing eye movements in a controlled lab is one thing, but doing it in natural settings is incredibly difficult. You have to account for changing light, reflections, and even just the fact that every person's eye anatomy is slightly different. That's where the supercomputer comes in. It's needed to run AI models powerful enough to filter out all that environmental noise and isolate the true signals of cognitive fatigue. And the lead researcher is not mincing words. Dr. Javier Andre Perez stated that thanks to the AI supercomputer, they will be able to quickly assess and predict fatigue levels. This isn't about guessing, it's about prediction. Gaining a detailed understanding of how the eye behaves, reacts, and is influenced by cognitive strain. This is where the situation takes a more complex turn, opening a huge ethical door. As AI gets better at inferring our internal thoughts and feelings like fatigue or distraction from our external body language, we have to ask, where is the line between helpful health monitoring and invasive cognitive surveillance? Our eye movements can reveal incredibly sensitive information. This technology is so powerful that the European Union is already mandating similar drowsiness detection systems in all new cars, starting in 2024 to improve safety. It highlights the dual-use nature of this tech. It can save lives, but it also creates major questions about privacy and consent, especially if used in workplaces or by insurance companies. He says the project will offer entirely new insights into human behavior. And if you think this is a niche experiment, think again. Academics from across the country and the AI company Solvent Group are collaborating on the project. This isn't just about tired eyes. The research lead calls it a significant advancement in the UK's scientific efforts in human-centered artificial intelligence. The ultimate goal is to enhance the monitoring of human factors like fatigue and its effects on the body all through the window of the eye. And this human-centered approach is a really big deal for a reason. For years, the main trend in AI has been automation, using AI to completely replace a human task, but this project is different. It's about augmentation. It uses AI as a diagnostic mirror to help us understand ourselves better, not to replace us. This approach, where AI assists and enhances human capabilities, might just be a more ethically sound and ultimately more valuable path for the future of artificial intelligence. Speaking of our eyes and technology, Meta's latest gadget brings the screen closer than ever before. Let's start with a single statistic that might just change your entire perspective on smart glasses. US sales have tripled year over year. A while back, we talked about Meta deliberately funneling buyers through in-person demos to avoid another glass-style backlash. So tripling US sales under those guardrails, that's a real signal. But this isn't a repeat of Google's ill-fated glass experiment, and the difference comes down to strategy. Google tried to do it all themselves, and it looked very, well, techie. Meta learnt from that. They partnered with EssilorLuxottica, the absolute giant that owns Ray-Ban, Oakley, and even Prada. This isn't a tech company trying to make fashion. It's a fashion company integrating tech. It's a co-branding model designed to make face computers socially acceptable from day one. And it's working with over 2 million units sold since late 2023. We previously analysed Meta's slow managed rollout, and yes, that neural band wrist control using EMG precisely to make this feel less sci-fi and more acceptable in everyday life. This is Meta's big play with its new Ray-Ban smart glasses, and early adopters are gobbling them up. The latest model, the Meta Ray-Ban display, puts a screen and AI right in your lens. Now, get this. The AI we're talking about is real-time assistance. You can look at a menu in a foreign country and get a live translation audibly or as text in your lens. It can identify objects for you. This is Meta's hunt for the killer app, that one feature that turns this from a cool gadget into a must-have tool, much like how third-party apps later unlocked the true power of the first smartphones. The price tag, a steep $799, as we flagged before. And Meta says there will be no Black Friday discounts, but for some, price is no object. The new displays sold out so fast that one school teacher in San Antonio paid a huge markup, spending $1,200 on eBay just to get her hands on a pair for her classroom, which tracks with what we noted earlier. You can't just walk in and buy them. Meta's in-person demo funnel means even sign-ups don't guarantee stock. If that was just the appetizer, the main course is just being served. While tech enthusiasts are clearly all in, the mainstream public is hitting the brakes. In-store demos show crowds are curious, but concerns over price, privacy, and the simple comfort of wearing a computer on your face are creating a major roadblock. This brings us back to the risks of always-on devices, but it also introduces a new dilemma. Researchers are calling attentional privacy. With a screen inside the lens, how do you know if the person you're talking to is actually paying attention to you or if they're looking at private digital content? It can disrupt the fundamental social cue of eye contact, making conversations feel awkward or creating a new kind of social imbalance. It's a brand new social problem we've never faced before. One potential customer put it bluntly, "I feel like I'm going to wait for one more generation." So we're seeing this fascinating duality, massive early buzz on one side and real world hesitation on the other. One analyst says that when it comes to mainstream adoption, we're not quite there. What really brought this to a head was the recent revelation from Meta's partner, EssilorLuxottica. It's on track to ramp up production capacity to 10 million units a year by the end of 2026. The message is clear. They are betting that soon we'll all be seeing the world through their lenses. And this reveals the real end game. It's a Trojan horse strategy. The real goal may not be to profit from the hardware itself. Instead, these glasses are a loss leader designed to do one thing: establish a massive user base for Meta's AI and augmented reality platform. We previously called out the broader SaaSification of gadgets, subscriptions layered on top of devices. And while that's not the headline here, the long game is the same. Lock in the platform, then monetize the services. They are trying to get their operating system on millions of faces before competitors like Apple can dominate the next great computing race. This isn't a bet on glasses. It's a bet on owning the future of how we interact with reality itself. From one tech giant's ambitious hardware play to another's, a major European regulator has just sent a very public message to Tesla and its entire fan base: back off. The Dutch regulator, RDW, has publicly asked Tesla supporters to stop pressuring them to approve the company's FSD supervised technology. In a stunningly direct statement, the agency said the fan campaign takes up unnecessary time for our customer service and will have no influence on the final decision. What we're seeing is a strategy some analysts call fan-based weaponization. And interestingly enough, it's very different from traditional corporate lobbying. Instead of going through official channels, Tesla used its social media platform to mobilize its customers, blurring the line between a grassroots movement and direct corporate pressure on an independent safety body. The ethical implications are huge because it raises questions about whether public pressure, potentially fueled by misleading information, could compromise objective safety evaluations. A while back, we also pointed out how Tesla's robotaxi branding can muddle expectations. Those rides still have human drivers, which makes this kind of mobilization even more ethically fraught. So why were fans flooding a Dutch agency with messages? Because Tesla told them to. In a post on X, the company encouraged its followers to contact the RDW, even claiming the agency had committed to granting approval as early as February 2026. But the RDW just shot that claim down. In a statement on its own website, the regulator corrected Tesla, stating that approval is not guaranteed and had never been promised. The reason the RDW holds so much power is because it's a key regulatory gateway to the entire European Union. It's thanks to something called the EU Whole Vehicle Type Approval System. This means if a car manufacturer gets safety approval from an authority like the RDW in the Netherlands, that approval acts like a passport, allowing them to sell that vehicle across all 27 EU member states without needing separate tests in each country. This is why gaining approval here is a massive prize for any car company. And just to be clear, even if a company is operating truly driverless rides in parts of the US, that success doesn't automatically translate into an EU green light. This whole situation highlights a major philosophical divide between Europe and the United States. The EU largely operates on a precautionary principle, meaning companies must provide comprehensive proof that a technology is safe before it's allowed on public roads. In contrast, the US often uses a more permissive, reactive approach, allowing new systems to be deployed and then investigating if problems or accidents emerge. Continuing our last discussion, comparing Tesla's vision-only bets with Waymo's sensor fusion, geofence rollout, the EU's approach maps much closer to the latter. Prove it first, then scale. The RDW is essentially telling Tesla that the American way of tested in public won't fly in Europe. This standoff in the Netherlands is just the latest chapter in the global saga of full self-driving. In the US, the technology is already under investigation by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration following reports of widespread traffic violations. And while we noted a while back that Waymo has begun highway operations without a human backup and is taking paying rides in several US cities, Tesla's FSD remains under US scrutiny, two very different trajectories under the same national regulatory umbrella. Now, a crucial detail here is Tesla's vision-only system, which relies exclusively on cameras. European regulators are likely scrutinizing this approach very carefully, especially because it can be vulnerable in the exact conditions common in Europe: heavy rain, fog, and snow. Competitors like Waymo and Mercedes use a strategy called sensor fusion, combining cameras with radar and LiDAR to create redundant layers of safety. A while back, we highlighted how Waymo methodically geofences its service areas, uses that rich sensor mix, and has an in-car interface that shows what the car sees, plus an emergency button to pull over design choices meant to build passenger trust. It's even running airport trips around Silicon Valley and Phoenix at full freeway speeds. For a regulator like the RDW, which demands that safety be convincingly demonstrated, a system without those backups faces a much higher bar. The very name of the software itself is part of this story. This all traces back to the long-standing promise from private tech entrepreneur Elon Musk that Teslas would become income-generating robotaxis with a simple software update. Tesla recently rebranded FSD Beta to FSD Supervised. This isn't just a name change, it's a critical legal and regulatory move. The word supervised firmly keeps it as a level 2 driver assist system, meaning the driver is always legally responsible. This is in sharp contrast to Mercedes Drive Pilot, a certified level 3 system in Germany that legally takes responsibility from the driver under specific conditions. It also explains why, despite the robotaxi label in Tesla's app, those rides still rely on human drivers, a very different legal posture from certified level 3. The language is a game of managing liability. That dream has yet to materialise, and this public rebuke from a key European regulator shows just how high the safety hurdles remain. The message from the Netherlands is clear. No matter how loud the fan base or how bold the company's claims, regulators will not be rushed and safety will not be crowdsourced.
That's it for today on Voyage Daily Tech. Follow, share, and stay tuned for daily updates coming your way tomorrow.